Hey guys, what is up? Hopefully you can hear me, and I'm coming to you loud and clear on the other side. It's been a crazy decade, man. I wanted to talk to you guys, take some time away from what I'm doing just now, and focus on talking to you about, the kind of year in review and what I've kind of been through, and mostly just even the decade in review, and talk about my art journey and some other things that I've dealt with along the way. Now, full disclaimer, this may get a bit emotional and may involve me being a bit more open than I am usually. But, I think the thing that people have told me that they enjoy most about me is the fact that I am so open and willing to talk about most things to do with me and my artistic journey. And I think it also helps the people who are listening to understand that even at the level I'm at, which is just at the starting line, there's definitely things I go through on a daily basis that are, not easy and tough. And it's not a sob story, I'm not making excuses or trying to talk about how hard it's been for just me. There's lots of people who are dealing with stuff every day. Not just mental health stuff, but also physical health stuff, chronic diseases, family matters. So there's a lot to unpack. And I think the best thing is just to get into it, really, and talk about it. So, back in 2012, I made the clever decision that I was going to leave my job and pursue, at the time, my dream of becoming an artist, which is, it's been rough, it's been difficult. I think because looking back at it now, I probably wasted so many years, trying to work through school systems that didn't really have my best interests at heart all the time. There was some great lecturers that I worked with that were just really good and helped me develop my artistic eye and how to look at things and how to, take on the role of being a professional artist. But at the same time, there was some who just didn't care, didn't encourage me, didn't want to push me, which again is fine, because, at the end of the day, it's up to me to make that decision that I want to learn, I want to be there for whatever reason. But it's hard. It's hard when you have, not only that your lecturers are subpar in some areas, but also that the people around you are not very encouraging either. Going through my time in design college, it was actually probably one of the best times I had in education, mostly because I formed bonds with a lot of the people in that class, who sadly I don't really keep up with these days, because most of them didn't become designers. They just went back to being normal people. And in university, it was definitely slim pickings of people who really wanted to work in the industry. One in particular who, if he's ever listening, I really hope he's doing well. And he was a really good friend in university. But that relationship, that friendship, kind of came to an end abruptly when he didn't want to involve himself with my failures anymore. And I know I say failures, but I just think I was so unmotivated at the time to learn. Because for him, it had been a couple of years learning stuff, but for me, it had nearly been a decade at that point. And I think I was just getting burnt out. which is what I want to kind of talk about in general about my artistic journey so far. You'll probably notice in the background is a video of me painting and doing a study from a Hearthstone card. This was a task that I undertook. I'm trying to think when I've done this now. Maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe even maybe November, autumn time of 2017. And it was one of the few times I think in my art career where I had set a goal of really pushing myself over a month, because I studied one card every day for 30 days. And it definitely had benefits. I definitely saw myself motivating other people, and some guys from Blizzard actually reaching out to me about how they were enjoying watching me kind of have fun with the process, which is really the nitty-gritty of what I'm talking about now in this Thinking Out Loud, where I think the one thing I've definitely struggled with is just deciding what I want to do in the industry, which I think is more commonplace now for a lot of people because there's so many different avenues. And I think the industry initially was built around generalists, people who could do multiple things really well. And now it's more specialization. So studios will be looking for specific people to do specific jobs and do them really well. And again, that can vary because in smaller studios, people will need to be more general skilled because there's not as many active workers or people that they can hire. And then obviously in the bigger studios, specialization. But I definitely have found with the whole generalization, specialization argument that people who do things or do one thing really well are definitely the people who get more work in the end or get, I think, the bigger projects, because when you look for a job posting, it's always for a senior environment artist or a junior character artist. It's never, we just need anybody who can do a couple of things well. So yeah, and then I think also looking back on how I've kind of approached things, I was having a conversation with my friend Sam, shout out Sam, and she said something when we were talking that really resonated with me, which was fear manifests itself in indecision, which is just the absolute culmination of my life at the moment. Because you're afraid of picking the wrong thing, because you're afraid of doing the wrong thing, of taking the wrong career path, then you don't want to really choose one, or you will choose one, but then sometimes you'll change your mind halfway through. And I think it's because the idea of focusing on one thing and then it having not paid off, I think time is always on my mind because I'm 34 at this point, and a lot of guys my age are or have been in the industry for years, 10 years at some points, and have really established themselves. But I think it all comes down to your work ethic and what you're willing to put in. I know Iris, one of the people that I really look up to, she started her career in her 40s and has been enjoying the fruits of her labour for a long time. She actually wrote a kind of article or a Facebook page kind of blog about how age for her was a real factor, but she's noticed that she's got success in art, that age is not really something that people really care about, which is super interesting to look at. And I think for me, my age has always been dwindling on my mind, I think, because I definitely have a fear about getting old, feeling like I'm wasting my time, feeling like I'm running out of time, and it's been difficult. I know along the way, the last couple of years, it's been tough where, you know, I walked away from a big long-term relationship and re-established myself for, you know, 3 years when I was single, and, you know, found my way through, you know, being happy by myself and being able to just be alone and enjoy my own company. That took a long time to get, you know, to the point where I was perfectly happy if I wasn't ever going to meet anybody. But then I did. You know, I met my now partner, and we've been together over a year, and it's been great. I'm really happy. But definitely when I met her, through a mutual friend, a kind of board game night we had, because I'd been alone at that point for 3 years, when I met her and everything went so well, I was kind of like, yeah, I could do this, you know. And yeah, it was just, everything just clicked. I also look back to how my relationships have affected my, you know, my approach to work as well, because when I first got my opportunity at Artcast Studios for the internship, it was great. I was super excited, but I was just at the starting line of leaving my then partner, and it really fucked with my mood. It really made me feel shitty. And it got to a point after a couple of weeks that I didn't feel motivated to be enthusiastic anymore. I felt kind of shitty because everything was changing, and that kind of still haunts me, because always makes me feel like if I burnt bridges with that studio, because I'd love to go back one day, but I don't know how they view me. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting how my personal life affected my professional life and vice versa. And yeah, the whole 5 years of education was difficult as well. You know, I hadn't been a student for a long time, and going back to school or college, university was really challenging, and was a new way of learning and approaching my whole idea of learning and degrees and, you know, diplomas. But I managed to do it. You know, I graduated with my diploma in design, and then I got accepted into university and done my honours degree. I even got an offer to do a master's at the Glasgow School of Art. So yeah, there was a few options and great achievements that I had over the last couple of years that I'm really proud of. One of them being that I started this podcast 3 years ago. Nearly 4 at this point. And, you know, every other day I get messages from people about how they've really enjoyed the podcast, and it's really made them happy that, you know, they've been able to be part of this and get inspired by it. And even, you know, people have messaged me saying that they're going to school because of me. You know, they're going to study art because of the podcast. And that just blows my tiny mind when I think about all the people that I've affected all of their lives, which is great. It really does make me happy. But I definitely feel that the focus has been, you know, too sporadic over the last couple of years, and I really need to start focusing on self-improvement and taking a break from social media again. I came on a little bit recently for Christmas and I messaged some people, but now I'm going to try and go radio silence again for, I think, the whole of 2020. It's going to be really difficult. I'm going to try and keep a lot of my stuff internal with some art discords that I've joined that I'm kind of part of. But I think publicly, like, you know, with this Instagram and Facebook, I'm definitely going to try and keep it quiet and focus on work as much as I can, which is difficult because I'm a social animal and, you know, I really like interacting with other people. But I'll still be doing the podcast. I do want to continue doing episodes well into the future for as long as I can, really. Because I love this podcast, and it's definitely gave people a window into me, into other people's process, and how they make art, and how they just navigate life. Because it's been a trip. It's been a weird couple of years, especially this year. 2019 for me was it's a really shit year. It was really hard. Now that I've graduated from university, working on my own and being in an office that's just me all the time, it's really difficult because I'm used to being around people and that energy that people give off. So I think it's definitely been one of the biggest challenges of my life trying to get through this year. I think one of the few things that's got me through it is just my friends and people in the community. You know who you are, who have took the time to really help me at points. But it's been a battle with myself. It's been, a really tough, really difficult time. I definitely will always remember this year as being, I think, one of the worst I've ever had. I definitely have had conversations with people that, it's made me think inward about myself and how I can approach this whole industry and my artistic push, and I flip and flop between wanting to do 2D and wanting to do 3D, and it's always been difficult for me. And then at the same time, some people I talked to recently were like, because you've done 3D and because you've got an interest in 2D, those things will cross over. More and more concept artists need to be using 3D in their work, so even ZBrush, so it's not like I'm hindering myself by learning that stuff. So yeah, like in that essence, in that sense, that I'm already kind of ahead in some aspects with 3D, it does make me feel a little bit better about the whole process. It's just difficult because I think focusing on one thing has never been my strong point, and I think it's hard because I do know people who have done multiple things, kind of jack of all trades in their career, and they maybe focus later down the line. But yeah, just in general, just I've always loved drawing, and I remember one night I was sitting in the office with my girlfriend, and I was looking through Ryan Lang's drawings on like Big Hero 6 and Zootopia, and I was like, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do something like that. But then the fear always creeps back in of, if you specialise in that thing, then you'll not get to do this thing. And I think one of the hardest things for me over the last couple of years has just been trying to surrender to the process and enjoy it. I think some of the most peaceful moments I've had when I've been making art has just been sitting with my iPad or a sketchbook and drawing superheroes and figures and cool anime battles. Recently I've tried to push myself to get involved with Mark Burnett's Art War, which is super awesome. I'll put some images up just now as I'm talking, and you can get involved in that. That's a really awesome contest. But I really wanted to just push myself and get involved as much as I could with that whole process and designing a character, and I was a bit hesitant at first because I didn't want to. I felt like it was too early, like it was too much too soon. Like I'm just at the at the start line, and I don't want to push myself too much. But I think these things are good because they kind of push you outside your comfort zone, which is a positive thing most of the time. And then even if it's like shit, people have said to me, okay, it's shit, but then you can look back on the shit a year from now and remember how shit you were. That's always a good marker in the road. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Because it has been difficult trying to get back into the swing of things, and I think taking my head out of the industry would be the best thing for me to do, because every time I've really been really creative or done some amazing work, it's when I've not been thinking about the next step, when I've not been thinking about where's my career going to go from here, or how am I going to get a job, or where's my next paycheck coming from. It's just been like, I'll draw anime girls today, or guys with big swords, or an environment, just having fun. Because if you're not having fun, then what's the fucking point? You know, a lot of people will look at the industry and think, oh, I want to do this, or I want to work for Disney, and I want to work for Blizzard, which is great. And, you know, I do still love Blizzard, and I would love to work there. I'm thinking now is, you know, I move on, that there's other places I would also love to work. Riot Games being one of them. But then, I think committing to a style and a vision is one of the harder things. But I think now I'm making those decisions that are more like, yeah, I would want to do that, and yeah, I think that would be a good idea. I've actually been studying in Mark Burnett's art school, probably the wisest investment in money I ever made. I'll put images up just now, and probably at the end of his class schedule for the whole kind of 2 years. It's 40% off as of now for Christmas, and yeah, if you want to learn the entire fundamental process of what it takes to be an artist, then yeah, Mark has covered it extensively, and it's a really good course. And I have so much, you know, I've kind of put a stop that said in 2020 I'm just not going to buy any more tutorials, because I have so much at this point. Like, there's so much I can learn from. You know, a lot of tutorials or courses that I've bought that I've just never really gave enough time. So that's the plan, is to work my way through those and just see how I go. Mark recommends 2 years for the course. I think I could do it in slightly less time. I kind of need to at this point, because the reality is I do eventually need to get a full-time job. But yeah, I think it's definitely one of the things that I've understood about myself, is that I really need to surrender to just the fact that it's going to take a while, but I don't want to give up, and I'm not going to give up ever, because this is my dream, and it's maybe taking me a while to get to a point where I'm making stuff and being consistent with it, but I've had a lot of shit to deal with the last couple of years, and anybody who says they're not dealing with something is lying. You know, we all have problems. A lot of my stuff hasn't been public about what I've been going through, but then that's just life, you know, and I definitely want people to know that it's been tough. There's been a lot of times I have struggled with my mental health, my physical health, and loads of things in between, but I'm determined to keep going. And I think that's the key for a lot of this industry, is that you just can't give up. I remember listening to an artist once who has worked on some amazing stuff, and he was working at Disney on DreamWorks at one point, and he got laid off, and he had to bus tables in LA for like 6 months. Something we all face, you know. I mean, nothing's permanent. Same with Max Berman, when I listened to his talk in the show workshops, where, you know, he left his job to go do freelance work and was getting to a point where he almost had to go back to waiting tables. And as Max said, talk about humbling, you know. Yeah, it's like it's just the determination and the idea just to know that, you know, something's around the corner. I just need to keep the faith, and I'll get back. And, you know, the guy I talked about who was busting tables has recently worked on a number of stuff, including, you know, Into the Spider-Verse and Love, Death and Robots. He's a Spanish artist. Forget his name. I think his first name is Miguel. But yeah, he's he just kept, even he had even served some guys that he worked with, or did work with at DreamWorks. And he was like, "Hey guys, what's happening? Can I take your order?" And they're like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "Nah, it's fine, whatever. Fuck it. I'm here. Let's make the most of it." But yeah, like, I'm definitely determined just to keep going and keep pushing. I recently came to the decision, and this may change in the future, but I don't think it's going to, that I wanted to focus on 2D and do a combination of concept and illustration, with the end goal being, working for a studio, or getting a freelance gig with Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering, because that was the stuff I really wanted to do back in the day. When I first left my job, it was definitely comic books, but card art's another thing that I've really, really wanted to do for a long time, and it makes sense just to push that illustration muscle and make sure it's growing. But initially, I'll find work doing some concept stuff with photos in 3D and fill in those gaps of knowledge I have at the moment. But I think I'm more at peace with the whole, I know what I want to do. And it has changed over the last year. And, I may lose friends over my decision, or, people will eventually give up on me again. But I just need to keep pushing and keep making stuff, and not worry about the whole social pressure that comes with, will this person be my friend? Will this person have respect for me? I think it's just about being your own friend, having respect for yourself, knowing that you've done a good job at the end of the day. I remember listening to Proco interview Kim Jong-gi again about, just his art in general, and then he said about professionalism, and he believes that one of the biggest steps in professionalism isn't just about showing up on time or being polite and hardworking, but having a kind of drive and fondness and proudness of your work. Like, every time you do a job, doing it to the absolute best of your ability, and being happy that your name can be associated with that artwork. And I think that's something I've definitely lacked for the last couple of years, where I've done art and then I've said, well, that's good enough, or that'll do, or that's okay, that'll pass, and not thinking to myself, I really want to make this amazing. And that's also something I think that people need to understand, is that that's also part of what will attract you to studios, is when people see that you give an absolute 100-200% when you work on a project. There's some guys, even when I was back Internet Access, that like Yannick was a crazy workhorse, and just stuff was incredible. I mean, his sketchbook would make professionals sweat, but he was so married to the idea of making everything so good and almost near perfect. And I think that's the kind of attitude you need if you're going to survive in the bigger leagues. So the AAA side of it, even the indie side of it, the small mobile game studios are getting, the quality is raising every day. And you look at some of the Chinese companies who work on mobile games, and the bar is just as high there as anywhere else. So yeah, you definitely have to have an appreciation for how hard it is to push and make everything that you're producing really good and worthwhile. And yeah, there's a lot of moving cogs, and I think it's hard to now go back and look at stuff and look at my art back in the day and think about how I used to approach drawing or painting or 3D modeling. That it was just a means to an end. Like, I just have to learn this and then I'll get a job, or I'll learn this and then I'll get a job, then I can relax. Because it's definitely a mentality I brought from my old way of life when I had my previous job. And I definitely don't want to do that in the future. I definitely want to make sure that everything I make is 100% good. Not perfect, and there'll be times I'll do things wrong, but that's fine, because that's failing. And I think failure is definitely a big step towards being good at something. I think the quote came from Adventure Time. It was Jake. He says, being kind of crappy at something is a step towards being kind of amazing at something. And I couldn't agree more. I wanted to do a whole talk about this. Failing for me has always been something that has had a negative association. When I was younger, I wasn't as positively reinforced as I could have been, and that definitely made me feel like I wasn't good enough for a lot of things. So I think that mentality now haunts me, where I'm kind of like, why even bother? It's never going to be good enough, it's never going to be good, I'm never going to get a job. And that voice is playing in my head all the time, and it really sucks. It really sucks. And I think the hardest part about finding your core strength is the ability to just be patient with yourself and understand that things take time. You're never going to be amazing straight off the bat, and there's some people that will take years to get good enough to work, and you have to be okay with that, because if you can't be, then the industry is going to be really difficult for you to navigate. I think one of the bigger mistakes I made at the start of my career was pushing so hard on the social emphasis, and going to a lot of these big networking events and making friends with some of the bigger artists, because it's been great that I've bonded these friendships and I know these people intimately, but then the bar is raised, the pressure is almost doubled, because when you're hanging with some of the best people in the industry and you're not producing work that is good, never mind amazing, it does make you feel less than. It does make you feel like you already think that you're not worthy to be there, but then the fact that you open your art station and it's just full of work that's like 6 and 7 months old, and you've not really populated it in a long time, it's embarrassing. And I don't blame people in my life for walking away and giving up on me. I don't like it, but I understand it. I understand why people will give up on me and will see me as less than, or that I don't have the motivation to do stuff. But it really bugs me that they can't relate to me as a human being and understand that just like everybody else, I'm going through shit and I'm struggling like everybody else. My struggle is very public, but there's a lot of people I know who go through the same shit, just don't talk about it. But I think the reason I do is because it resonates with so many of you guys and so many artists who feel like they're alone and that they're feeling and thinking these things for the first time, but then along comes someone like me and blows your tiny mind with the fact that I'm going through the same stuff. Like someone said to me the other day, art comes so easy to you, no wonder you can make such amazing stuff. And I'm like, art's hard. It's kicked my ass for so long. I'm only now getting in the swing of things, and when people say it took them 10 years to get into the industry sometimes, or took 5 years or whatever, I can believe it. If I took it from the first time I left my job until I actually get a job, it could be 10 years. 2022, will be 10 years since I left my job. And if I'm getting a job around that time, then yeah, it'll be a decade. It'll have took me that long to get a job. You know, all the years of going through education and networking and socialising. And I definitely have seen people do it quicker and more efficiently. But yeah, man, like, it's scary to think how long that's taken me. But I've enjoyed my time. You know, meeting people and getting to go through the whole education cycle again and finish university with honours. You know, like, I'm probably one of the first people in my family to ever do it. And I was really proud of myself that day. And, you know, since then, I've definitely felt like a disappointment to not just me, but my family. And it struggles or makes my brain kind of feel crappy that I'm still at the point where, you know, I've got an odd job here and there, but I'm not really working, you know, full time. I don't have that 9-to-5 studio job yet, and or even, you know, consistent work with freelance. So yeah, it's definitely made me feel really shitty. But there's definitely hope in the form that the last couple of weeks I've definitely fell in love with my 2D side again, and I'm enjoying sketching and not thinking about or worrying about what the next step is, just, you know, having fun with it. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And it's difficult because you know, you want to do really well and you want to make people proud, you know, and I'm just lucky, I suppose, that I have such an understanding family and a really understanding partner. You know, I don't think I would have made it this far without any of them. And yeah, I'm really lucky for that. I'm really appreciative and thankful for that. And I think that's something that you have to go into the new decade thinking about, is how to be grateful for the things you have that other people don't. You know, there's so many people who don't have a partner, who don't have a family, especially around the holidays. It's going to be tough. But I'm just thankful that I have these things in my life that can help me. And I know no matter how long it takes, you know, my family and my partner will support me, which makes me incredibly thankful. And yeah, so I definitely want to approach the next decade with hard work and humility, and really think about what's going to make me happy in the long run and what's going to make me want to make art. And throughout my life, it's always came back to 2D. It's always came back to drawing and painting. And you know, I'll need to learn some 3D over the way, because, you know, that is just part and parcel of 2D now. But I'm definitely more comfortable with the thought of being a 2D artist, and not pressuring myself to get good super quick. I think time and patience is the key, especially when it comes to 2D, because there's so much to learn, and it's one of the hardest mediums. But yeah, I'm more at peace with the idea that. So yeah. So I've been talking for a while now, and I usually like to keep these things a bit less time than my regular episodes. But I just want to tell you guys that I hope you have a really nice Christmas and a happy New Year. Digital Artcast has been amazing this year. We've had some amazing guests, and I just want to say thank you to all the guests who came on and gave up their time. It was really, really nice of them to come on and talk about their process. next year we will have more people, a lot more people, and then I'll do a few more thinking out louds. I definitely wanted to try and do more with the podcast, but I think my key focus should be my art and making good art. It's also the reason that I won't be attending any social events this year for art. I just wanted to focus on, again, the process and getting better. And the social stuff will come afterwards. I've definitely done enough socializing at this point, and enough people know who I am, so I need to focus on getting good and getting work. So 2020 will definitely be the year of work. But thanks for everybody who's stuck about so far and listened to me rant. I appreciate every single one of you who listens to me. You are amazing. And again, to my guests, thank you very much for coming on. And yeah, you'll hear more from me in the next year. I guarantee it. Again, on CubeBrush just now, Mark Burnett has the Art War series, which is really awesome. You should jump in and try that if you haven't already. And his art school is also 40% off. So if you haven't already, go and check it out. It's a good investment. I want to shout out my friend Ross Baxter, another podcaster. He does the Student Art podcast. He had me on recently to talk, and it was amazing. You can go over there and check out that episode on his channel. And to everyone else, just have a really fucking awesome time, and I love you guys. If you've got any questions, leave them below. I'll definitely see them. I'll definitely get back to them. But until then, later guys, and I love y'all. Bye bye.